Sorry about that. So, where was I? Talking about different levels within an organization and how people see things differently. So, I'm sorry, I was outside moving, trying to get this gate open. So, like I said, within an organization, there are different levels, different tiers. So, a lot of people wonder how the executives, CEOs, presidents of a company that makes so much damn money. I mean, you get these golden parachutes worth millions of dollars, right? And people look at them and it's like, that's not fair. Well, it's a mindset. Their ability to see all the problems within an organization and to be able to guide, direct, and correct a course of action that people are taking so that the company is profitable. Okay, the guy that's at the very bottom sweeping the floor, he's no less important, but his value towards the company is not that as the guy at the very top who's directing the course of the company itself. Don't get me wrong. Sweeping the floor is necessary. It keeps people safe. Keeps the garbage and the trash out the floor, keeps the place looking clean. He is no less important, but the value that he provides is much lower than the value the guy at the very top provides. Now, you probably say, well, that's not fair. He's the guy that's keeping everybody safe. Yes and no. And then as you move up in those levels, you got an electrician, you got a mechanic, you got the widget maker. The company wouldn't be there if those guys didn't make sure all that stuff was being handled. That might be true, but it's not completely true. That those guys are tools that are being utilized to maintain the company, the process to continue operating the way it's supposed to. So, no less important or no more important than the guy sweeping the floor. Okay, but again, they provide a certain amount of value towards the company, and they are paid for that value that is perceived. Now, you can say, well, his value, who are you to determine that person's value? I'm not. I'm nobody. Only that person can determine their value, which is why when they are hired, there's a negotiation that happens. They say, okay, we're willing to pay you this much money. And you say, well, I want this much money. And they say, well, okay, we'll give you something right in between there. You agree to it. Or you disagree and you move on to someplace else. You have a choice. Everybody has a choice on what they're going to do, what they perceive their value as. Completely up to you. Every time you go in to a company or you go to work, you make that conscious choice to come into work. There's nobody that's locked the gate to prevent you from leaving. So why is all that important? Okay, because we started out with creating work for the sake of work. Okay, it's trying to increase a person's value to make sure that all the little pieces within their control is being maintained. You train somebody to do something outside of the scope that they were originally hired for. Do they deserve more money? Absolutely. Okay, you hired them to sweep the floor. Okay, now you want them to take out the trash. You want them to do the fire extinguisher inspections. Okay, it's something different than what they were originally hired for. Doing more responsibility, more work. Do they require or do they deserve more pay? Absolutely. And you create those boundaries, I don't know if boundaries, those milestones, those tasks for that person to get them to a point that they start seeing different things. And this is the reason why having, I'm getting ready to go on a different tangent, guys. Getting ready to go on a different tangent. This is why having those entry-level jobs as a kid, when you're ready to work, 14 years old, and you start moving through and doing things in the garage with your dad, learning about cars, learning different things. You get these side jobs, paper routes for a lot of people. I never had one. But this is why it's so important to have these skills as you are growing up, because it helps you understand to look at the smaller things as you gain more and more knowledge. It helps you realize the different things that's available to you that you can see that most people can't see. Somebody who has lived in their parents' basement since when they were conceived to when they go to college, they come out of college and never held a job, they don't look at things the same way as everybody else. And that's a problem for a lot of the society right now, is that they get out of college expecting, because they went to college, because mom and dad told them if you go to college you can make $100,000 a year right out the bat, and they go there getting a liberal arts degree and they can't get a job with a liberal arts degree that they want to be, that they believe their value is worth $150,000, $200,000 a year, and it really means absolutely nothing. Then and then they wonder why they even bothered going to college. Well, you chose the wrong profession. You chose the wrong path. So, and I get, I'm kind of bouncing around a little bit here, but at the end of the day, within an organization, within a company, there are people that create value. There are people that are valuable. Well, let me take all that back. Everybody within an organization has value. They do. It's your ability to continue to prove that value that allows an organization to decide whether or not they're going to promote you or let you go or keep you. It's those little things that you do to continue to show your value is what's important to an organization. There are certain things out there that that if you don't do anything, you come to work, you do the barest minimum that you're supposed to do, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you cannot expect to be making the same amount of money as the manager. You cannot expect to make the same amount of money as the guy sitting right next to you who is doing everything he possibly can to increase his value. You can't expect to make the same amount of money as he does. The guy who sweeps the floor, who only wants to sweep the floor and does nothing else but sweep the floor, he cannot sit there and say, you need to pay me more money to sweep this floor, or the same amount of money as the guy who's sweeping the floor, taking out the trash, vacuuming, mopping, doing anything else that anybody else asks, and he's being paid more. You cannot ask for more. So if you can't continue to prove your value or your worth within an organization, you can't expect to get more money. And I really believe that's really a problem within our society, with the way things, the millennials, the Gen X people, I mean, maybe not so much as if you were born after 1990, you're in that boat where your parents told you, and I'm guilty of it as well, told my girls they can do whatever they wanted if they went to college. And It didn't dawn on me until after I had completed college myself while working a full-time job as how hard it is, and the degree really didn't matter. It was my attitude, my willingness to do what people asked of me, my willingness to learn. And so I'm digressing even more so a little bit here. So when you go back to it, and I'm creating these tasks for the people that work for me, I'm creating that perception of intended value for them. Because eventually what will happen, it becomes ingrained in them. And then they start seeing the bigger picture, maybe a little bit more. And that's what I'm trying to instill in them, because I don't want to be the guy that comes in there every single time identifying the problem and then having to yell. I don't yell, but get upset with the people around me for not identifying it. It's up to me to help them recognize the things that I think are important to maintain the process in which we work in. By doing that, it increases their value. It shows other people that that person is astute. He is capable of learning more, doing more. Because the perception is this guy is watching, or this person is watching. This person understands what's going on. This person knows what's important within his area of responsibility. So let's give him something more. Let's help him be more successful. So let's pay him some more money. Let's give him some more responsibility. Let's see if what he has learned, he can transmit that over to somebody else. So some people, like I said, call it creating work for the sake of creating work. But I look at it as creating work to increase somebody's knowledge and their value. Now, all right, so with all that, that's been, okay, this one here, again, 12 minutes. The one before I had to cut it off, it was 9 minutes, 10 minutes. We're at 22 minutes talking about this. And, well, I don't know if you can tell, but I feel fairly passionate about that idea. It's a realization that I stumbled upon myself. Probably, I want to say 6 months ago, when I went to this leadership seminar called Impact. Some of you may know it. There are different variations of it. So there's a trilogy of management training to help people realize not only their own worth, but the worth of other people. And it helped me realize that my expectations in me, what I see that I think everybody should be doing, I am projecting onto them and becoming upset at them for not understanding what it is going on inside of my mind, you know? So I have an expectation of what somebody should be doing, and because they're not doing what my expectations are, and I have not communicated it to anybody. I haven't said anything to anybody, okay? But my expectation is you should already know. And because you don't know, I think you're a piece of dirt. You're a piece of shit. And that's a realization that I came on. Now, you may have heard me say this before. It's been in previous videos as well. But I set expectations in other people, and then because I don't communicate those expectations in them, I become upset with them for not understanding what those expectations are. It's like they're supposed to know what's going on in Mark's mind without me telling them. And sorry, right now, it's just not, telepathy is not a thing. Not for everybody. So it's something I have to work on myself, is creating those opportunities to communicate with the people around me and set those expectations for those people around me that I think that they should be managing, monitoring, maintaining. And that goes down to, here's a calendar, here's the things that you have to do, step 1, step 2, step 3. If you don't understand what you're supposed to be doing, let me show you. Come walk with me. Let's walk out to the area. This is the things that I expect you to be looking at. This is why I expect you to be looking at it. And now, once I have set those expectations for that person, I have trained that person into what it is that I am looking for, and they don't do anything about it. They don't follow through with those expectations. Now I have a problem. Okay, that's where it's okay for me to become upset. I've said this before. I don't scream and yell at people. It doesn't do any good to anybody. It really does not do any good to scream and yell at a person, especially grown adults, because what ends up happening is they become offended. When they become offended, they completely shut down. They don't do anything. Everything goes in one side and out the other, and they ignore everything you're saying. All they hear is you screaming and yelling. So it does not work. It's no different with children. You start screaming and yelling at children, their feelings will be hurt because they look at mom and dad and they're yelling at me, but they don't understand why. They can't hear what you're saying because you're screaming and yelling, and they become scared. People are like that as well. When you're screaming and yelling, they become afraid. They don't know what's going to happen. They believe that you're so angry at them that they could lose their job. Okay? I have yet, no, I take that back. There's been one time where I've sat somebody down and I have told them that if they don't shape up, they're going to lose their job. But I gave them the tools to be successful. I explained to them what they needed to do. I walked them through and taken them by the hand and said, this is how we're going to do this. This is why this is important. I've taken them all the way to that point, and still they were continuing to fail at the task that was handed to them. So it got down to the point where they were going to lose their job because they could not grasp the idea of what they needed to do. So, but since then, when I've done that, I've found that more than likely that person is going to do what they're expected to do, as long as you put it in a mindset that they can understand and you tell them why. Nobody wants to be told to do something just because. They want to know why. Why is that so important? Why is it removing snow and ice off the ground where people walk? Well, the reason is people walk here. Ice is slippery. Snow is slippery. You could fall. You could hurt yourself. You want to be able to go home the same way that you came into work today. You don't want to have to send somebody to the hospital because you chose not to remove the ice and snow and somebody got hurt. Okay? You explain it to them. By getting that buy-in with that person or with that group of people, then it makes more sense to them. So, all right, well, don't really have much more to talk about today. Maybe we'll continue on with this idea of levels within an organization and why the disparity in pay. I know a lot of you understand this. You may even have heard it before, but you really don't quite think it's fair. Now, I get that, but if you're going to provide the most value, you should get the bigger paycheck. If you don't provide the value that an organization perceives as the most important, well, you're going to get paid or compensated based off of that idea. And there are organizations out there where they will take advantage of somebody's willingness to provide a lot of value, but not compensate them for the worth that person themselves perceives, or even they perceive. They may know that you are a very valuable person, and that if you were to leave, that you could hurt the organization, make it more difficult for them to continue their course of action. But they continue to take advantage of you. There are managers out there that will do that to people, and they're banking on the idea that that person is too much of a coward to change jobs and go seek out his or hers value with somebody else. Let me tell you something. If you perceive your value is you're not being compensated correctly for your value, then you need to go someplace else. I guarantee you, if you are as good as you believe you are, somebody will pay you for what you're worth. So, anyways, I've rambled on long enough. We're at 30 minutes with both these videos, and I hope you have a great day. It's the middle of the month of February, the 11th. Getting close to March. I'm looking forward to the end of this trilogy of management training that I've been going through. It is with Influence. I'll be in North Carolina for a couple of weeks at the beginning of March, so I'm looking very forward to it. I'm learning something new. Take care of yourselves, everybody, and be good. Take care.